8:40 actually. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. Very good morning to you.
Yes, indeed. And remember, the clocks have gone forward. So let's take a look back. Sorry.
They've gone back.
I'm completely confused, which is why I wanted to try and straighten it out for you. Yeah, because you're waking up on a Sunday morning, you don't know what hour it is. And what is it? It is 8:40.
Not 9:40.
20 to 9. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So,
I've done that before.
Thank you, yes.
Years ago, but I
Totally
remember as kids, and we all turned up at church, and there's nobody there on a Sunday morning.
You were out early, or did you miss the service?
No, we were an hour early.
Oh gosh. Well, that's dedication for you. The question is, did you stay until the service
Got an extra wafer.
But it wasn't pink.
No, it wasn't. There were those pink wafers. Are they made with cochineal? That's what I need to know now. I never thought of that. Because that's insects, isn't it?
It is the red colouring.
Anyway, let's have a look at the papers quickly. With editor of Sprite magazine, Tom Slater, and anthropologist Marianne Hotter. Morning, you two.
Hello.
Tom, to the Sunday Express, should we? What's the shock poll that they're talking about?
So it's showing the scale of the problem that Rishi Sunak has to get over in order to make the Tories even a viable contender for government next time around. So a third of voters, according to this poll, say that they are less likely to back the Conservatives at the next general election, with Sunak at the helm specifically. And also, as we've seen reported elsewhere recently, the amount of people who have just left, of 2019 voters who have left the Conservatives essentially, so about nearly half of those who backed the Tories in 2019 are currently not backing the party. It's obviously very early days.
I was going to say, do these polls mean anything at this stage? Because we need to see where we are in 6 to 12 months, don't we?
I think that's right. I mean, I think the one number that they'll be most keen to see go down at the moment is just the amount of people who want a general election. It's currently about 64%. And you can understand that insofar as we've had just this kind of Tory musical chairs without actually any proper democratic mandate. One thing that from this poll, which is from Onward and JL Partners, which is interesting, which is that whilst the Tories have lost at the moment about 6.7 million voters, only a sliver of them, about 1.3 million, have gone to the Labour Party. So the vast majority are either undecided or said they're just not going to vote next time around.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking at here when you see that commanding Labour lead is not that they've necessarily won back a lot of those voters or that there's been a lot of switching. It's that in fact you're seeing a lot of people who are kind of disaffected, moving away. And so in a sense there is still a fair bit to play for, even though
it's easier to win them back than pull them back from another party,
exactly.
Isn't it? Marianne, in the Sunday Times, microplastics.
Yeah, this is a bit of a radical one. Many of us know that air pollution is a problem. It's the kind of invisible killer. Not that long ago, a little girl who died of a terrible, terrible asthma attack was the first person to have air pollution listed on the causes of death. In the UK, that is. There's going to be a big report published next month about the impacts the health impacts of air pollution by Sir Chris Whitty, who's the Chief Medical Officer. He of COVID fame, he was on our TVs every night. One of the things they've realised is that it's not actually just the particle of the carbon, like horrible carbon particles, for example, coming out of car exhausts or people's chimneys on factories or whatnot. It might actually be tiny pieces of microplastic which are held in the air that we breathe in.
So how they get into the air?
So one of the things is modern tyres on cars, all cars, including electric cars, where obviously there's no emissions. Modern tyres are mostly made of plastic, and when they're rolling along the road, they shed because your tyres get worn down, and some of that goes up into the air. So when you're walking along a busy road and you go, "Oh, this smells horrible," you're smelling the particulate matter. You don't even realise that you're breathing in the plastic, and that's where it ends up. For example, they found when they do autopsies and things, they find plastic in people's brains, and they've done assessments of placentas of people who've just given birth. They're newborn babies. The placenta has plastic in it. And obviously the impacts of that are potentially maybe the reason that there's all these increasing rates of cancer, all sorts of other health conditions, increases of dementia. They're trying to work out what the links are, but there's a massive concern that they are really bad for us and we didn't even realise. So you're kind of rolling out all these electric vehicles going, oh, this is the solution.
But the tyres are still the same.
The tyres are still the same, even if there's no fumes coming out of the exhaust.
I think we will look back one day and realise that plastic was an absolute evil, and we actually overdid it. We overdo plastic still now, don't we?
Well, I mean, there's it's a wonder material. There's such an so many amazing things that plastic has enabled. But obviously, there's the kind of, we're playing catch up with the impacts of the technology. The other question is it the plastic or is it the chemicals that attach themselves to the plastic? So it's just plastic as the carrier. Either way, I've said to Tom in the break, I don't really know what the conclusion from this is, except that we should all go and live off-grid and stop living in towns and cities.
We should go to COP27 and try and do something about it.
Here we go.
When I was coming back on a jet aeroplane, so I mean that's the trouble with the way we live. I was going to say when they brought the meals round, all the cutlery was bamboo.
Oh.
The cutlery was bamboo, but the food was still in a plastic tray.
Angeli says, sorry, Anne, but I'm in agreement with Stephen on this. COP is more about talk. We rarely see any benefit.
Well, maybe the benefits will be long-term, but we need them.
Yeah.
Mike says COP27 is a waste of time until they stop all these little wars around the world. You've got to do everything there. We're part of a global planet, aren't we?
I'm not saying COP shouldn't happen. I just think, Rishi, should Rishi be going there? No.
You can send somebody important, like the king.
Can we have a look, Tom, on the Mail on Sunday? Hot water bottle sales. Because this intrigues me, because I've just bought a hot water bottle. I had one already, years old, and I bought one. It's long and thin.
Oh, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so you can get into bed and lay it down your whole body.
That's a great idea.
There you go.
I just read a Which review of those, because Tom and I were talking about hot water bottle. It says that it's not any better than the cheap one you can get out of Superdrug.
Well,
yeah, but a long one, it's the shape.
It's the shape of it.
Just right across your lap.
You can wrap it around your neck.
Yeah. Are they more expensive than ordinary hot water?
Yeah, hugely more expensive.
£10.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's not bad.
All right.
Apparently,
If I'd spend a lot of money on anything, it's all the other one.
there's a run on hot water bottles, though, apparently.
Yes.
We're going to be... if there'll be a shortage.
And it'll probably be what it's like in the summer when you kind of forget to buy a fan or whatever and you can't find them anywhere, because apparently it's been soaring, so sales have tripled, according to John Lewis in particular, as people are trying to find these neat ways of avoiding putting the heating on. Martin Lewis from Money Saving Expert has estimated that kind of using a hot water bottle regularly is about a 50th of the cost as it would be to turn your heating on and so on and so forth. So it's one of those things which is, even if it's becoming more and more of an essential as people are looking forward to those.
Great Christmas present.
Yeah, great Christmas present.
And there's a whole range of options which also the story lays out. So it talks about the £4.25 one you can get from Argos, but also some much more extravagant ones if you did want to treat someone this Christmas. You get a John Lewis one with a cover for about £25.
25
Yeah, but it's the cover.
Wait for this.
It gets worse. Harrods is offering a silk velvet hot water bottle with removable lavender sachet for £130, which kind of defeats the object in terms of
exercise.
The top one here, though, is from a designer called Anya Hindmarsh, who is selling one for £175 a piece.
£175 for hot water.
Yeah, but the money will be in the cover, won't it? It'll be in a posh cover.
And in her
Diamond
pocket.
encrusted.
But one of the really important pieces of advice is don't use that really old hot water bottle at the back of the airing cupboard that you haven't used for years and years, because the rubber degrades. And then you might potentially end up with, basically 2 litres of boiling water, or like very hot water. So don't do that, get a new one.
With instructions on the back, and mine says on this one, it takes about 1.5 litres to fill it up. And it says, do not use water above 40 degrees Celsius and only fill it a quarter of the way up, which would then be a total waste of time.
Yeah.
So, of course, I ignore that.
Oh, so that's what they have to say for health and safety reasons, isn't it?
Yeah. You just fill it with
Yeah, I insist you must have a hot water bottle that's got a handle on it so you can hold it while you're pouring into it. Because you get some that you can only hold round the neck.
Oh, yeah.
And then you are... I always feel very vulnerable to pouring boiling water.
Well, I think you're not supposed to be pouring boiling water in. Maybe warmer than body temperature, because otherwise what's the point of that? But not boiling water in the kettle.
That means the hot water is probably coming out of your tap, which means you're heating your water, which you're trying to...
Or just boil the kettle and then wait 5 minutes. Just don't do it when it's really hot, and then always squeeze the air out, because the air expands.
Well, you need to hold. Oh, there we go.
Go on, no, tell
It's
me.
important.
If your hot water bottle, you hold it like that and fill it in, and then when it starts to fill up, you lift it, and the air comes out the top, and then you bend it back down again.
You do it carefully so it
and
doesn't
that stops it spitting out.
And do it over the sink as well. So if you hurt yourself at all with boiling water. You drop it, it goes in the sink.
Yeah, and also once you put the top back on, shake it upside down.
Oh yeah, check your bottle before you
it's like,
To get rid of the drips in the...
well, to make sure it's not leaking.
See?
that you've done the top up properly.
Yeah. So look, how's this for public service?
We are back to the 1950s. Yeah.
There you go.
Meanwhile, the price of a traditional roast has soared.
Yes.
So, what are we going to cook for Sunday roast today?
Well, either save up your money because the average roast with meat, veg, gravy, and a chicken, £13.52. And I thought that's still not that bad because a roast chicken with all the trimmings. Well, how many people can you feed a chicken?
Well,
like 4 or 5 people,
doesn't it?
Well, it depends how much you want to eat as well. And if you're filling up with, you roast potatoes, your carrots and whatnot, you've got the oven on, you can do an apple crumble at the same time, that's nice and cheap. So you kind of, economise. But it is definitely more than it used to be, up by about 20%. And of course, there's been all that, and that's not including the energy costs of putting your oven on. That's just for the food. So a food price increase of 20%, close to 20%, is massive. And obviously, if you're counting every penny, that is the difference between making it affordable or not affordable. But the other thing to remember, of course, is that the value ranges in supermarkets have gone up much more quickly and much more rapidly than the other ranges in supermarkets. So if you are counting your pennies and you're going for those value ranges, the prices have increased even more, and it's going to hit you even harder.
I'll tell you what, though, there's still some good money to be saved on things like potatoes. We get through a lot of potatoes. And you get the price differential between the lowest and the highest is enormous.
And it's just potatoes, isn't it?
It's potatoes.
No, there's some better potatoes than others.
Oh yeah, but if there's a
really
I don't think so.
if there's a black bit on it, cut it out.
Cut it out, yes.
No, it's the quality of the potato itself. You can get some that are just very plasticky and, and others that fluff up nicely.
Oh, I like a waxy potato, though.
A waxy potato, that's
I love it. But that's a different, so if you want to get technical, then kind of look at the breed of potato.
King Edwards.
Oh, they're right, too fluffy for me.
Lovely and fluffy.
Just go for the cheap ones. Save some.
But that's the other thing, is
but that's the point, yes, you're right.
The
Things like squash, sweet potatoes, rice, those things
All of those extra
like
bulky
whole
things.
grains, keep the skins on as well, because that's where loads of the nutrition is, that's where all the fibre is. Makes it easy because you chop it up and lob it in, you don't
it's all
need to
those
do
things that are very, very
tedious
filling.
peeling.
I mean, to those of us who've given up meat, I don't eat the chicken. I'm not interested in the chicken or the what everybody sees as the main part of the meal.
Yeah.
It's all the other things, but particularly the roast potatoes.
Oh,
Do you know what we did? Actually, yesterday, we were doing chicken and we had friends coming over, but we only had one chicken. And we're like, well, how do we make it stretch? And we got a couple of tins of
Get them a
chickpeas.
lick each.
Yeah.
You have to lick the chicken. I'll go next. Chickpeas, go on. What are you saying?
We'll cook that in with the chicken, and then they get like lots of the lovely flavour in the sauce. And then suddenly you had like a casserole dish, shoved it all in the oven. Off we go, play with the kids for an hour and a half.
That was the only thing I was going to say, that to get proper roast potatoes, you need a very, very hot oven, don't you? So they are quite expensive to cook.
Energy intensive.
They are energy intensive.
I can't imagine you making a roast, Tom.
I'm not a particularly dab hand in the kitchen, I must admit.
But you bet you enjoy a roast, don't you?
Very
There's
much.
nothing on a Sunday. Oh,
But
absolutely
you can never
brilliant.
beat your mother's roast. That's the reality of it.
It's not what my...
Oh no!
Oh, isn't it?
No.
Oh, you see,
It's because I don't eat it particularly. I don't really cook it, but they do. They all do a very good roast.
when I go home, my mother always does us a roast dinner, and it's just
Fantastic.
she does the best potato. It's true. It's absolutely true.
Roast potatoes.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you
yeah.
what she does. Actually, here's a nice tip for you. Because it costs more money in effect. But you parboil them, score them with a fork, and then rub them in flour.
Yeah.
And
Rub them in flour.
Yeah, put flour on them, and then they come out so crispy.
Can I add another bit?
Go on.
Which is put the tray in with a little bit of oil, heat up the tray while you're parboiling potatoes and then letting them dry off and doing whatever you're doing with flour. Then put them in the hot oil, beware the splashing, and that, like, poof.
Yeah.
Because the
Well, you're sort of
oil gets
frying
really
them,
hot.
yeah, you're
so you get that
mixing
crunchy
everything.
outside. Yeah, it's good. There you go, Tom.
Tell us what you're planning today for lunch. Please do. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Yes, we've got lots more to come for you in just a couple of minutes, including getting ready to learn how to carve that perfect hot